Hey everyone, we're going to be taking a look at page 11 in our lesson book today. And you can see this is more practice with third position and sometimes more than third position if you're a cello on the G string. Okay, we're going to start with number 63. If you're a violin or a viola, you'll notice you don't actually shift for this entire exercise. You stay in third position. So you're playing in a different position, but you're not shifting back and forth. Okay, and then cellos, you do have to shift. You visit third position for a little bit on each line. So there's a small amount of shifting for you, but the rest of it actually is in first position. So this one shouldn't be too bad for cellos at all. But you might recognize this title long ago. This is a very popular melody. Many of you probably played it when you were first starting your instrument because this can be played all in first position using the first finger patterns that we learn as string players. What this book has done is made it so that you have to play it in a position or have some shifting with it because we know the melody, we know what it's supposed to sound like, and that way we can practice the shifting skills and the third position skills that we've been working on. Okay, so we're going to play through this number 63. Violins and violas, you are in a 3-4, oh, there, now you can see it a little bit better. A 3-4 finger pattern on both the G and the D string because this uses both of those strings for third position. And cellos, when you are in first position, you have to make sure you're using your second finger. It's an F natural and it's a C natural, okay? So second finger. All right, so I'm gonna find my first note. Cellos, it's 4 on G for you, but violins and violas, we're putting our first finger down. All right, and here we go. 1, 2, and 3, 4. All right, so if you had trouble with that, and I can see how there might be some spots where you'd say, I don't really remember or really know which finger I'm supposed to use for that note, you can go back either to page 10 with the G string third position notes, or you might have to go way back to, I think it's page 2, where it has the D string third position notes. So you might need to go back and look at that, and that is okay. That's why we have the book, so you can go back and reference and look at things that you might have forgotten. Okay, so we're now looking at 64. This is the same deal for violins and violas. You stay in third position the entire time with the 3-4 finger pattern. This one is a little bit harder though with the fingerboard geography. Cellos, I'll get to your thing in a minute, so just hang tight. But violins and violas, if you check this out, the first two notes are so far apart that you really need to know. You're not just climbing up the scale and doing 1, 2, 3, 4. You really need to know what these notes are, right? So the first one is one finger, and then you should be able to count up, or hopefully maybe you already know this, that the next note is 4. So we're going 1, 4. Okay, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you get to the third complete measure, you don't count that pickup as a measure. The third complete measure, you'll see the note drops really low. It's an E. That's 3 fingers on the G string. Okay, so as you're playing this, all the way over to G with 3 fingers. That's what tends to get students. A lot of times they get to that part and they have no clue what to do. Sometimes they shift back to first position. You don't want to do that either. We're trying to follow what the book has asked us to do and stay in third the whole time. Cellos, you have a shift right off the bat. You go from G in first position up to fourth position C. So it's a huge shift right away. And as you can see, you actually shift most measures throughout this. There's a couple measures where you don't, but in most measures, you're doing some sort of a shift. So you really have to be on the ball with this. what I'm playing will sound the same note-wise, but I don't have to shift the way that you guys do. And we'll spend some more time in our lesson going over that. But just know you have to shift to get these notes. Okay, so everyone find your first note. It's a G. I'm going to go through this pretty slowly. So that way, if you have questions, you can go back and listen to each part. Okay, violins and violas, you can look at my fingering. It's the same for you. Cellos, unfortunately, you have to be a little bit more creative or a little bit more on the ball with yours and looking at the different fingerings. Luckily, they tell you the fingerings on yours. They don't do that for violins and violas. They just have to know. Okay, so here's 64, Bluebells of Scotland. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready, here we go. Same thing here. Okay, so now you're moving on to actually doing some shifting. I know cellos, you're thinking we've been shifting this whole time, and you're doing a great job with it, but now the violins and violas have to have a chance to do some shifting too. So we have, I believe, 4 exercises of shifting starting on number 65. Cellos, you're going up to 4th position. This actually should be easier than what you just did. So if you made it through the last couple of melodies, this should be a piece of cake for you. And violins and violas, you can see we're starting first finger. Actually, everyone's starting first finger on G with the note A. It's a low A. Okay, so here's 65. 1, 2, here we go. Right. Next one, and by the way, still 3/4 finger pattern for all of these as well, violins and violas. Okay, 66. Same idea here. This time, though, for violins and violas, we do a shift from 1 finger up to 2. Cellos, I think you're doing almost the exact same shift. That's a little bit different, but you're going to the same note, right? You're going to that D with your first finger and 4th. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll keep going here. Hopefully, like I said, even for violins and violas, these should be a little bit easier. They're a little bit more straightforward than the first 2 melodies. And the first 2 were actually really tough. Okay, hey, this is a little bit different with 67. We normally don't start our shifting melodies, the exercises, in a position already. But in this case, we do. So cellos, you're going to find first position with your, I'm sorry, not first position. First finger in 4th position on the note D. Violins and violas, we're going to find 3rd position with our 2nd finger on the note D. And then we're going to back up to 1st. And that is a 2nd finger for cellos and a low 2 for violins and violas because it's a B flat. Okay, so we're going to find our first note. It should sound like this. And the note we're going back to is this. So it'll be a close 1 and 2 if you're a violin and viola. Okay? Excuse me. So here's 67. 1, 2, here we go. Okay, and last one here, 68. I really like 68 because there's something kind of special that happens when you play this. So you can see the first measure is all C's in first position. So 3 fingers for violin, viola, 4 fingers for cello. The next measure is exactly the same notes, but you play it a different way, right? So you're going. So it sounds exactly the same, but you're playing it with a different finger. And what that requires you to do is shift so perfectly that it doesn't sound different, right? If you shift and you don't quite land in the right spot and it sounds different, the person listening will really know because you just played the identical measure beforehand, okay? Then if you look at measure 3, it's the same thing. You do that in position. And then measure 4, you go back to first. Okay, so we're going to play through 68, but keep that in mind. If it doesn't sound the same, it should be exactly the same, then you shifted incorrectly in some way. Just to give you an example. Here, how they don't sound the same. Okay, so here we go, 68. 1, 2, here we go. Here's our shift. Over to the D string. Back to first. All right, so hopefully we're starting to feel more comfortable in third position and shifting on the G string. And we'll go through these together in your lesson.